somebody who does things a little differently, to see how things can work for them. And so I appreciate everything you're doing. And thank you for taking the lead on training the whole team. So it's appreciated. And I also know that you're taking Josh Coates training.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's super helpful too, for those of us who aren't in it. Like I was saying too, I just joined it, so I could get more information on it too. But I think what you've shared with us is incredibly helpful. And so I appreciate it. So I'm going to let you take the reins on this, and I'll jump in with what I do. Obviously, we'll co-lead the call, but I'll give you the reins.
Cool. Okay. So what I want to do is just kind of like walk you through, because it's almost like a multi-day process that leads up to an event. So it's not just going through and like randomly messaging people. It's, as in everything we do, it's building a relationship with people. It's creating, an environment where they know you, they like you, they trust you, and then you invite them in a way that is not creepy, that is not sleazy, that is not salesy, but is also very to the point, and you don't beat around the bush. Like, you tell them what you have, you ask them if they want to be a part of it, and if not, totally fine. So mindset is really important in all of this, because in like sales, like just in general in life, when you offer somebody an opportunity, it takes them sometimes like 7 or more times of seeing something to want to be a part of it. And so also keep in mind that they're not going to see all of your posts and all of your stories. So if they see you post, so if you're posting about the business, once a week, twice a week, they're not going to see all those posts. If they see one post a week, in an ideal world, it would take them on average 7 weeks to be interested and to say, maybe that is for me, if they're even interested at all. I heard a really good thing. I'm listening to Chillpreneur right now by Denise Duffield Thomas. And she said that marketing is like standing on the bank of a river, and people or your potential clients, they're just floating by, and you may not, that person may not be floating by when you put something out. And so the key is to just be consistent, post a lot about what we do, post about the products, post about what they've done for you. Like Melissa said in her live today, like, share your story repeatedly. It doesn't matter if you tell the same story every single week, because the people who like your story, they will read it every single week. And the people who don't like your story aren't your people. So repeating yourself, because again, like, not everybody's going to see what you do every week. And so what I do is, in addition to all of, I post about it, I talk about it on my stories. I talk about what the products do for me. I talk about why I love the workouts. I talk about the community. I talk about the Netflix workouts. I talk about coaching. I talk about the community. I talk about what it's done for me. Right? Like, all of these things, all these are little bits and pieces of things that you can talk about all the time. So hopefully you're not feeling like you're going to run out of things to post about or talk about on your stories. But it's, I'm going to mute you, girl. Hold on a second. There we go. Okay, sorry. So the way that we, again, create that trust in people, so that when we do invite them, it's not just something weird and out of the blue, is we are constantly posting. And again, we don't know who sees all of our posts and doesn't comment. And this is something I've learned, because like, I'll message somebody, and for me, it might be the first time I interact with them. And they'll say to me, oh my gosh, I love your posts. Like, you're so whatever. And I'm like, wow, like, you never even liked any of them. So you don't know who watches. So it's okay to invite anybody, is kind of what I'm getting at. So the process that I go through is like, you can kind of, let's start with like adding somebody on social media. So whether it's you're adding somebody as a friend on Facebook, or you're following somebody on Instagram, you start a relationship with that person. And from there, I send them a hi, like just a general, like, hey, just want to introduce myself. So like, we're not strangers and it's not weird. And I tell them a little bit about me. Like, I live in Asheville. I've got 2 dogs. Like, I've got a kid, that kind of stuff. And then I ask them, what about you? And so then it kind of starts a relationship. It's totally fine if all that happens in that first interaction is that they message you back and you're like, that's awesome. So great to meet you. So happy to, be connected on social media. It's fine. You don't have to have a huge conversation at first. It's like, you have to like just connect with people a couple of times. And then like you go and you interact on their post. And then from there, so like, I have my book, like, here's my, this is how I track. If I have an interaction with somebody, I write their name down. And if they write me back, I highlight them. And that means that that person is going to go onto my invitation list for a day or two later. So all I do is I go to my book and I'm interacting with them for a couple of days. It's not just like, nothing is happening. So basically, like, I have the first conversation. I write them down in my book. If they write me back, I highlight them. The next day, I'll go to the day before, the people who have interacted with me and, written back to me. I'll go to their page and I'll, maybe like one of their photos or comment on something. And then like a day or two later, I'll just send them an invitation. And that's all it is. And that is enough a lot of the time to build up a relationship with somebody. And you could do this over a couple of days. Like, I wouldn't drag it out because people kind of have a short attention span and they kind of tend to forget who you are. But if you're in their inbox, if you're, in their notifications, if they're seeing your posts, because every time you interact with somebody, Facebook or Instagram will then show them your content. So your stories will pop up first, you assuming that you are doing your activities from the tracker and doing your posts. So again, like every time you post and every time you do your stories, they go to the top of the news feed, which is why it's a good idea. And this isn't something I've really talked about before, but to do, rather than post like all your stories in one big blast, is to do a story, every couple of hours, because it keeps bringing you back to the front of the line on stories, which is why, and I'm sure you've seen this, like if you follow somebody whose stories you see a lot, they'll keep ending up at the front of your stories. And then for whatever reason, maybe they won't be there. It's because they haven't posted a story in a while, or you've seen all their stories up until that point. So that's just kind of an aside. So then you just go and invite. And you have a list that you are building every day based on the new people that you interacted with. And new interactions can be like new people who you add, who you send that first message to. It can be birthday messages. I love birthday messages. It's the easiest way to send best messages to people, just like, and say hi. There's a couple other ways that I do it. So birthdays, I'll just say, hey, happy birthday. Like, I hope you have an awesome day. Did you do anything fun? And when I ask them that question, it's kind of an invitation for them to respond to me, and then we can have a short little conversation, and then I can invite them in a couple of days. So really, I'm just like, all of this is just building up a relationship. In fact, I went and got my haircut today, and there was a girl from my book club who was getting my haircut after me, because the lady who cuts my hair we're in a book club together. And she's like, I love that you sent me a birthday message the other day. It meant so much to me. I'm like, yes, I love you. Like, people just, it means so much to them that you recognize them on their birthday and send a personalized message. You don't have to comment on their posts or post on their wall in order for the Facebook algorithm or the Instagram algorithm to start showing them your content. You can just message them in their inbox and say, hey, happy birthday, or just send random people a message and just say, hey, happy Thursday. Hope you're having a great day. And that's it. Like, it doesn't matter what you say, just be positive, be happy. Like, people are looking for that positive, happy energy right now. So it doesn't, honestly, like, it doesn't matter what you say. If you're just genuinely checking in, saying hi, being happy, people love it. So that's a really good way to connect. The other, let me think if there's any other way. Mostly like birthdays. I love birthdays. It's great because usually, like, I mean, the more people you have on your following, the more people are going to be having birthdays. So I'll end up with like 10 or 15 birthdays every day because I've got over 3,500 friends on Facebook. And yeah, so then there's all my new conversations. And it's amazing still how many people I have never interacted with that I send a birthday message to. I'm like, wow, I have never talked to you. So then we come to the invite. Um, if, oh, another way that I interact with people is in my stories. Sorry, one more thing. So, like, if I go to, one of my stories on Instagram, like if you have Instagram and Facebook, and you do this from your stories, do one story from Instagram and one story from Facebook, and do a slightly different message just in case the same people, you just like happen to send the same message to the same people. It's not weird. So I will go through some random thing like maybe Garrett playing outside or my garden or, dinner or something like that. And I'll just send them a message and say, hey, I saw you're watching my stories. It's really nice to see your face pop up in my notifications. How are you? Happy? Cheerful, nice message that I would love to get from somebody. And yeah, so again, those are the ways, because if you're not constantly creating new relationships with people, you're going to run out of people to invite. Same thing with growing your community and growing your network. If you're not growing your network and your community, you're eventually going to run out of people to invite. So that's why these things are on the tracker every single day. And then, just like connecting with people, sending them, going to their page. Don't be like the weird person who just like sends hey girl messages, because that's not what we're about. We're about loving on people, building relationships, and then inviting them. And
or don't be somebody, this literally just happened while we're on the call. Got a friend request from somebody, had some mutual friends, accepted it. I looked down and I have an invite to her Pampered Chef party. Like, never spoke to her ever before, ever. She's like, hey, thanks for accepting my friend request. I'm selling Pampered Chef and will you join this group? And I'm like, first of all, I've been invited to about 17 billion Pampered Chef parties in the past 2 weeks.
Me too.
Isn't that weird? They must be doing something. But it's annoying, number one. And number two, introduce yourself. Like, I don't know. So just, that's not the way to invite. That's an example of what not to do.
Yeah. There are a million ways of what not to do.
It. Yes.
And that's the problem. I know that that's why people get freaked out about inviting, is because that we've all been the victim of a bad invitation.
Yeah.
And it's sleazy and weird. So this is what is working for me. When I invite, the first thing I do is I sit down and I get my head in the right space. I think about like, why do I love this? Why do I love Beachbody? Why do I love how I feel? What has this done for me in my life? Why do I love coaching? Why do I love my community? I'll just write down a couple words that inspire me. Maybe if I'm really in a weird mood, in a funk, I'll like put some great music on. Everybody has different ways that inspire them and get them all fired up. Some people listen to personal development. Some people go for a walk. Some people, make sure they get their energize in before they invite. Some people do their workout before they invite. Like, whatever works for you to get your body and your mind focused and energized and excited and ready to go. Like, don't just sit down when you're stressed out and realize that you haven't done any invitations and try and bust them out, because your energy is going to come through. So sit down and write, like, what inspires you? How do you feel about the community that you're part of? How do you feel about Team Destination U and being part of this amazing coaching community? Or, how do you feel about the challenge group that you're in? What has it done for you? Just write something down, think about it, get into it. And then I go through my list. So then I have my list of like, these are the people that I have been interacting with, who I've, been having conversations with, and I send them invites. And for me, it's copy and paste. Like, I pick whatever it is I'm inviting to, I just go down my list. If I've had a conversation with somebody before about something, maybe I'll invite them to something different. Like, as far as like inviting, you want to be inviting new people. Like following up is different than inviting. And I talked about this a little bit earlier this week in one of my live videos, but just inviting the same people over and over and over again doesn't count, because I did that for a couple of years and my business just stalled and I couldn't figure out, I'm like, I'm inviting, but like really I was just following up.
Yeah.
So yeah, make sure that, you know, it's new people, because these are people who've never, you know, had the opportunity to work with you before. And your invitation, it doesn't have to be scary. And you don't have to start a conversation before you send out an invitation. I spent so much time psyching myself out and waiting for like sending somebody a message and waiting for them to message me back, and then being like, oh, can I invite them yet? Yes, you have permission to just send somebody a message as long as you've talked to them before, so it's not weird. Just inviting them, it's totally okay. And that's like the beauty of social media, is you can send them a message and whenever they read it, it's fine. It's not like you have to like write a letter and wait for them to write back. But for me, it's very, very, very clear, simple, to the point. And I will say, hey, I'm doing a accountability group, or okay, so like right now I've got my kind of ongoing bod groups going. So when I invite to them, I say, hey, I'm running an accountability group in a private app off of social media. Are you interested? Or are you, no, that's not what I say. Let me get my actual thing. This is what I say. Because like me in voice invites doesn't work. I have to send them. Some people do great. Some people actually send voice invites.
I do all the time.
You
So
do?
that's how I do it.
Yeah,
My
okay.
invites are all voice. None of them are typed. Because
Okay.
and this is why. So this is why you run your business however you want to run your business, because it clearly works either way. For me, they hear and feel my emotion. They hear my passion. Whereas if I'm typing something, they don't feel any of that. And I could use all the emojis in the world, but they're not going to feel that from me. And I'm a very feely person. Like I need to know somebody feels my passion, because when I read text from somebody, I'm like, she cut and paste that and she's full of crap. Like that's literally what I what I feel, especially with this. So to me, that's how I am. So I deliver what I would respond to. And so that's why I do. And I fumble over my words and my kids are screaming in the background, and that just makes it more real.
Yes. Yeah, it totally does. Yeah, I mean, if you mess up, like, congratulations, you're a human.
Yeah. Right. Mine are never ever perfect, ever.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So like, you know, I might say, hey, I've got an accountability group. Are you interested? Basically, like as short as possible. Because for me, like when I get wordy, and when somebody sends me something that's really wordy, I get lost. So the short, simple, short, sweet, simple. And they're going to respond back and either say, yeah, tell me more about it, or they're going to not say anything, or they're going to say, no, thanks. And here's the thing, when somebody tells you no, the first thing I do is say, totally cool, no worries. Is there a better time that you'd like me to check back with you? Because you don't know why they said no, unless they flat out tell you, unless you get some crazy person who's like, no, you know, leave me alone. In which case, that's fine, leave them alone. But if they say, no, I'm not interested, that can mean so many different things. And you don't know what any of those things are until you ask, until you say, is there a better time for you? And then you can go put them in your calendar. If they're like, oh yeah, I'm in the middle of a move, like maybe in a couple of weeks when I'm more settled, then I'd love to. Like I've had so many people say that. And then you're like, oh great. And so then I put them in my, you know what I love are reminders on my phone, that I literally set myself all the reminders to just check back with people, because I can't remember when somebody tells me to come back to them. So like I've got one in here for like 2 months from now for somebody who's having a baby. And so, yeah, I just make sure that if they tell me no, I follow up. If they're like, no, I'm not really interested, The next thing I do is I send them another message, and you can either, I used like a screenshot of a really yummy recipe. Um, and I just gave them something free. And like right now, I've got like a link to get 5 free recipes, and then I get their email in exchange. So that's like advanced. If you want to set up an email list, you can do that. But for me, for a long time, I would just say, no worries, that's totally fine. Like, I get it. I love to give people free stuff. So I just wanted to give you this really awesome recipe that I love. You know, you can give them something for like, you know, I don't know, dinner, dessert, breakfast, whatever, a recipe or a snack. Just so it's not like, peace out, like, I'm never going to talk to you again. Like, just give, like, be somebody who gives and adds value.
And you can literally take a screenshot and make sure you edit it down so it doesn't look like a screenshot of a recipe from Beachbody On Demand and send it to them.
Yeah. It's a great way. People love recipes, especially in the summer, of something like some sort of like icy, like, you know, like maybe like a skinny martini, or
Yeah.
like some like melon sorbet, you know, something like that. I used like a melon sorbet forever. And people loved it. They're like, oh my God, that's awesome. Thank you. I love melon. And then like they remember that you sent them that. If you message them again, they're like, oh, that's that girl that sent me that thing. Um, and you were just somebody who just like said peace out and like never talked to them again. Because I'll come back to people all the time. I'll be like, hey, I know you weren't ready before, but are you ready now? So that's that. Okay, so then business invites. I posted the script for what I use, and this is what I use right now for everybody, for every business invite. Unless somebody who, like, we've been talking and they're like a really great challenger, and they've, you know, kind of expressed a little bit of interest, then like it's just a conversation. But if I'm just inviting somebody who I've never invited before or talked to about the business, I'll send them an invitation that says, hey, I love your energy. I love your posts. I'm growing my team. I would love to share a little bit about what I do with you. Can I send you some info? And I found that that last line, can I send you some info? That helps people not freak out. Because if you say, are you interested? They're like, I don't know what that means. What do you mean, am I interested? Like, do I have to commit if I'm interested? Are you going to talk my ear off if I'm interested? If you offer just to give them some information, they feel like they can look at it at their leisure, and they don't immediately say, I don't want to talk about it. No, no, thank you. I don't know. Are you going to try and convince me? Like, that's what runs through my head. If somebody says, are you interested? I don't want to say yes, because I don't want to get into a conversation with somebody who's trying to convince me.
Right.
So if I just offer to give them the information, and they can just, you know, watch the video, read my, whatever I send them at their leisure, people are way more open to hearing more info. And then from there, and again, I posted what I send to them in the, like in the invites post. Like, I did a bunch of different like not follow-ups, but like, here's what I send to people, like follow-up messages to people who want to have more information. There's a couple of videos that I send, both from Beachbody Corporate. I don't reinvent the wheel for anything. Like, I want people to get the information. I give everybody the same information, unless it's somebody very specific who I've been having a conversation with, or who's like an awesome challenger. You know, those kinds of things, I'll tweak it a little bit, but really not that much. Are there any questions so far? No? Okay, Ebony, I know you can't really talk, but if you want to type into the chat if you have any questions. Okay, and that's really it. I mean, for me, the biggest thing about inviting is just getting in the right mindset, because people are going to tell you no, people are going to ghost you, people are going to say crazy things. Like, you saw the message that I got from that crazy person the other day that I posted. Like, that was literally the only interaction I had with her. Like, those 3 chat bubbles, that was our whole history. And like, she's crazy. I mean, like, some people, it's not about you. It's about them.
They just like to be negative.
Right, exactly. So just to know in advance that when somebody tells you no, it's not about you. I love the Life Coach School podcast with Brooke Castillo, and she has the greatest analogy. She says, you could be the most glorious, juicy peach in the entire world, and you still can't make everybody happy because some people just don't like peaches.
Yeah.
It's totally
I
true.
forget who else says that. I think it's John Maxwell.
Oh yeah,
Somebody
also
somebody
awesome.
else says that. Yeah.
Yes, John Maxwell is also amazing.
Yes.
Um, let's see. So yeah, I mean, people are. It's not about you. Like we are all. Each of us is very egocentric. We all like to believe that the world revolves around us. But let me tell you, if you send out an invitation to somebody and they don't respond to you, chances are either they're like meh, and they just forgot because it wasn't that important and they weren't that excited, which is fine. That's their deal. Or they'll say no, thank you, and then we go off in our own little head about, oh my gosh, why not? Maybe I didn't say the right thing. Maybe I said it the wrong way. Maybe I was too this. Maybe I was too that. They have already forgotten. It's not about them. I mean, it's not, sorry, it's not about us. It's about them. It's about them in their point in their life. And we're all free to make our own choices. What our job is to get information to people and to offer people the opportunity. So many people do not know that coaching is an option. They do not know that when we post these awesome posts and we love our shakes and we love our workouts, they don't know that they can do it with us. They don't know it's an option until we tell them, until we invite them, until, you know, we get into their inbox and say, do you want to do it with me?
Yep.
There was another who, I don't remember who it was. Somebody else I listened to, it was a woman. Anyway, she said, and this was about inviting, or, you know, offering somebody a product or a sale. And she said that okay, so like say your son has a bunch of friends and your son's friend's mom posts something on social media that says, hey, we're having a party, like, you know, anybody who's friends with Garrett, you know, can come to the party, like we'd love to have you, we're having a potluck, just RSVP. Like I'd be like, oh, that's nice. They're probably not talking about me, they're probably not talking to me, you know. And yeah, like my son is friends with him, but like it's probably like for family and not me. But then if that mom sent me a personal message and said, hey, we're having a party, can you guys come? I'd be like, yes, hello, because I didn't know it was for me. And so many people don't know that when we're sending out these like broad call to actions, they don't think it's for them until we reach out to them and say, I want to work with you because I want you to get the results that I got. They don't think that it's for them. They think it's for somebody else. And so it's just, we're doing other people a disservice when we don't create those interactions with them and we don't create those moments for them to have the opportunity to say yes to us.
Yeah. So to add to that too, if you don't mind, Alana, because it can shift right into your story. And this is how I will be the first person to say that I've been in this for 8 years. For the first 6 years, everything I did was attraction marketing. Everything. I hardly ever sent out an invite. Hardly ever. And I'm just being honest. That doesn't work anymore, by the way. You have to send out invites. But with that said, when I make a post with a call to action, or I'm just going to use my refresh story, because for the past 4 years, I've been pregnant or nursing. You're probably sick of hearing it, but that is part of my story. And I haven't been able to do a cleanse, and I haven't been able to drop the weight. And now I feel amazing because she finally stopped. Well, I had to force her to stop nursing. And while that was super sad for a week, now I'm like, all right, let's go. I'm ready to tell my story even more, because before I wasn't as much. So my invites mattered a lot because my attraction marketing went down over the course of 4 years because I didn't feel good enough to share my story as like I used to, if I'm being completely honest. But now with my post, with the refresh, I shared a little bit of my story. And so those people who saw it that did see themselves in my story reached out to me because it was a call to action, and they saw themselves as I could use a cleanse to lose my quarantine 15, like, or whatever. I just had a baby. I could use losing 5 pounds or whatever. I just want to feel good again. I want to cleanse. They could see themselves because of the way I posted it and what I said in the post. Now, there could be others that saw my post that I will go back and invite personally who didn't comment or reach out, but saw my stories, that I can go back and say, hey, I saw that you saw my stories about the cleanse that I just did. You know, if you're ever interested in more information, I'm happy to give that to you. Have you ever tried a cleanse before? So something to that effect. There's two ways to hit up the same, you can use the same post to do the same things that we're talking about. So attraction marketing, and then use whoever saw the post or the story to invite them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's really important to invite from your stories too, because you can see who sees your stories. And if you're effective at doing your stories and you post frequently and a lot of people see them, you can go and, you know, swipe up when you're on your own stories, basically. Or, you know, I think that's how, yeah, I just automatically do it. I think you swipe up when you're on your own stories. But you can see all of the people and you can send them a message, and the message will pop up in the message to them so they see what you're talking about. And then you can say, hey, I saw you were watching my stories. Like Melissa said, like, just invite them from there, because when we do posts, we don't see who sees them. But with your stories, you do see who sees them, which is another thing that I do when I send out an invitation. Like I sent one out for salted caramel, and I basically said, hey, I don't know if you've seen my posts or my stories over the last couple of weeks, but there's a new flavor, a seasonal flavor of Shakeology coming out. Can I send you some info? People are like, no, I haven't seen that, but that sounds awesome. Or, yeah, I saw that. I'm really interested, you know, whatever it happens to be. But then they'll be like, oh, maybe I should be watching her stories. Like, if she's talking about this stuff and I'm interested, maybe I should go watch her stories, that kind of thing. So we have about 4 minutes left because I don't pay for Zoom. But if there's any questions or any last topics maybe that you guys want us to just briefly touch on.
Otherwise, did you guys do your memory joggers? Good.
Good. Awesome.
Vanessa, did you do your memory jogger? Awesome.
Nice. Way to go.
And Ebony, oh, good. She said yes. Awesome job.
Stars.
So with that said, thank you, Alana, for all that information. If you guys haven't done your invites yet, make sure you are, and make sure you're posting this. Alana, did you want these just uploaded as a photo into the group? Does it matter? Or you fill out the Google form?
Fill out the Google form. I don't care. These are for you. If you want to look at those and check them off and then come back at the end of the day and log, that's fine. If you don't want to use them at all, that's fine. But the Google form is how I determine if somebody stays or leaves the group. Good.
And she is serious about that.
Serious. 75% will keep you in the group. Also, if you get called out, you still have 48 hours to make up those extra points or make up whatever extra stuff.
She's not kidding. That's how he does it. Because when I purchased his course, he said it in there. He's like, and there's no refunds. So.
Yeah. So when you're serious, there's an incentive to do it. And yeah. I'll tell you guys, like, I've been living off of a tracker similar to this since last year. And I mean, those of you who are in the you know, chat that Melissa and I are in, you know, and we share what we make every Thursday, and you've seen my income go up and up and up and up and up. And it's because of the consistency and because I've actually been doing the business activities. And again, you guys can see, like, it's not crazy stuff. It's not a lot of stuff. Like 3 recruiting invites, 7 just, you know, whatever invites, and just working on yourself. being consistent in your stories and posting once a day on social media, over time, you will see success if you put the work in. And this is the only work that you need to do.
Yeah. And the biggest thing too is it's okay to shift. I know we have 1 minute and 43 seconds left. If you're finding that your voice messages aren't reaching people or aren't converting to anything, switch to texting them. But if you're finding that nothing is working, then you have to reach out to one of us, depending on who your upline is, to figure out if it's the wording or what it could be. And take that constructive feedback. I hate the term constructive criticism because that's not what it is. It's constructive feedback to help you get better at this. And so that's what I'm here for. I know that that's what Alana's here for her coaches. So make sure you're reaching out if you're just not seeing the turnover, because by now, less than a minute, with all of these things that Alana and I have given you in the group for the past 4 days and all the invites that you've sent, because you should have sent by about 40 by now, you should have signed up some people. And if you haven't, there's probably a reason. So let us know.
Yep. Just screenshot, send it to us. Say, what do I say?
Yep. Exactly.
Yep. All right. Guys, thank you so much for getting on. Thank you for putting the effort in. You are rock stars.
All right. Thank you, Alana. Thanks, guys. Bye, Amy. Bye, Ebony. Bye, Vanessa.